Recently, an idea came to me about fake money. As you know, America and probably any other country, I'm sure, has fake money. It's not backed by metal. It used to be backed by precious metals, or that's what ancient banknotes of USA said, but I'm not really a historian on this, but you could probably find information about when did America's money stop having value. It just symbolizes debt now, or just credit. But I just realized why we probably have fake money, and it's directly tied to the movie industry, the record industry, just basically audio, video games nowadays, print productions, like text-based crap. Basically, it's just to fund fake shit. Fake money for fake shit. Now, in a real, genuine, actual human society, we would barter, we would trade goods and services, and probably have, written agreements for exchanging labor hours and food and all that stuff. We would just be bartering using actual, real goods and services that would be made right in the area. You know, manufacturing is just, it's all done far away in China now, and people wonder why we're in such a bad economic state. We have so much stuff, but we manufacture almost none of it, but it's a little too late to be worried about that. So I'm just gonna focus on fake money and fake goods and services. I've already expressed my thoughts on how media production is massively blown out of proportion. If you want to write a story, keep it short. If you want to make a movie, keep it short. I'm talking 45 minutes is probably unreasonably long. 10 minutes is probably as long as it should be. A lot of podcasts are just so rambly, and it's if you just snip all that stuff out, you'd probably massively reduce the runtime to half or something like that. Me personally, when I'm done editing these things, I tend to remove a quarter of the runtime. Oh, and video games, everyone's already complained about that, so I don't play video games anymore, but it's an example of something that ideally people should be able to do it on their own, homebrew Atari games or homebrew NES or something like that, something very simple that a normal person could do. I don't even have time to get into how disproportionate these productions have become. Anyway, acting is cringy, just the very idea of acting should just make a human cringe, and freaks, they love it. Again, an unusually large amount of activities for young children involve having them act. Kindergarten and early grades would have mandatory plays that I don't recall there being opt-outs for, and I don't know about Boy Scouts, but Girl Scouts would have these, they would just kill time by putting on plays, and even some weird middle school, they were putting on plays for the older children had to partake in it. It's basically some kind of a reenactment with monologues, and I don't care. It's essentially acting. It's just you're playing dress up, and then you start miming some commonplace activity like scrubbing the floor, and then you recite some monologue that you wrote, yeah. I had something a little more cohesive in my head, but yeah, you can use real metal or banknotes, I guess, that are backed by real metal if you're gonna get money involved in exchange of goods and services made in the community. But if you're gonna make some big television, or movie, just audio, video, VG, text, whatever, print, just media, it's not going to be something legitimate and artful made by a real person, and it's not going to be true story time or genuine thoughts time. Can you imagine if there were publications with these things? That'd be great. But advertising, products that are good should speak for themselves, and you're going to notice that they say that if there is truth in advertising, nothing would be sold, and 1% of the budget goes to the product and 99% of the budget goes to the advertising. Yeah, that sums it all up. What more can you say about that? If, say, the controllers wanted to stir up a bunch of crap and make people angry, they will fund projects large audio-video projects propaganda films or ad spots. It's all audio-video. A commercial is essentially the same as a TV show, is the same as a movie, the same as some short film made by a student for a grade. It's audio-video. So that's why I keep calling it that, because the audio part is actually quite significant. We just don't really notice it, but it can make a big difference in how we perceive the final product. Anyway, movies do not really benefit society. It's just that our news media just goes on and on about how great movies are and how great popular music is, and it's advertising, and I've already talked about that in the past, so why should I repeat myself already? I'll repeat myself if I feel that it's extremely noteworthy and I haven't brought it up in a while. Audio video is not a bad medium, it's just, you know who controls it. You know who funded the development of television. Not just the television device or receiver, but like how the whole entire system regarding television works. Somebody says it reads like a Tel Aviv phone book. So that's interesting. And that should make you think, like, when they found out that this wireless transfer of images and sounds was possible, like, they knew what they had. And boy, they went crazy with it. It's kind of interesting also to know that before TV invented, it also existed because there was a possibility of these machines being constructed. When it comes to inventions, it's like they've actually always existed. It's just, the question is when in recent memory has one been put together and functioned? That's the question. But if it can be invented, it has always existed. So isn't that something to think about? Anyway, I'm trying to come up with a good way to phrase my thoughts, but I'm sure you probably would have figured out what it is. If the elites want to make a propaganda piece that riles people up and gets a lot of attention, they're going to want to advertise it, because if they're going to spend that much money, they want people to pay money to see it, and that's important. Paying money to see a production, fake money. Real money goes for real things like produce, or getting a ride from a carpool, whatever, just paying for the gas or food for the horse, whatever. The elites want to produce a movie. They will have to pay people because it's a really big production. It's huge. A lot of the budget just goes to people whose parts are just a cog in the machine. Like, you need more hands on deck. Like, these are not easy things to make. A few people involved in the movie making business are very famous and people know their names, but there's just all of these grunt workers that they have to hire to keep things running. So it's a lot of money to make a movie, and the elites are gonna pay with fake money because it can be spent the same, but it's not backed by anything. And perhaps my opinions are not very good and I'm not an economics student or anything, but it's just an idea that I got. And paying people to work on a video game, fake money. And what these media companies want is that they do not want people to own copies of the media. As in, they don't want you to own a movie, like a DVD, or they don't want you to own a CD, ideally. These mediums are out there because the people demanded it, and there is a market for it. People pay money. But these media companies do not want records and cassette tapes and VHS and DVD and CD. They don't want people to have that. They just accept that people do. What they would want is that, ideally for these companies, there would be this a cinema where you go in, you pay, you watch it once, you get out, you do not own your own copy. Or I don't know what you would call the pre-recorded music equivalent to that, some audio-only cinema, where you go in, you pay money, you listen to the record once, and then you get out. Like, that is what the media companies, that's how they want it to work, but it doesn't work like that because the people wouldn't have it. But now that they're doing, like, digital shit, and I don't partake in that, so I'm only gonna speculate. They're really bothered by piracy, but they can still do that thing where they will charge you to watch something once, and I don't know if you have access to it after you pay for it, or how it works. I guess you would have access to it. A lot of people's, like, media libraries, they don't have them at their discretion. If they bought a lot of games on Steam and then the games get pulled, that person is SOL, as far as I've heard. Again, I do not partake in these things. I'm gonna repeat what other people said because I don't know firsthand what it's like to use these services. If they want to charge people to watch something fake or to hear something fake, just some screech singing music album or just a movie, things that do not actually benefit society and have no intrinsic value in real life, that is also where the fake money comes in. And the same fake money that allows people to buy made-in-China trinkets. You know what I'm getting at? I've realized why we don't have money backed by metal anymore. because the money was being produced to pay for workers to work on movies and print propaganda, and then that same fake money is now being used to buy Chinese crap and sometimes legitimate stuff like paying your neighbor to mow your lawn or something like that. Going shopping. But that was kind of long and rambly, and I suppose that if I had a much better way to put it, I would have had this thing done in like 4 minutes. But anyway, until next time. So, I'm thinking of a better way to rephrase the whole fake money for fake things, real money for real things, but ideally, money wouldn't exist, it's just a tool that makes things easier to manage. And I think that fake money was probably invented and used a lot for funding of complicated projects like making a movie or setting up a theatrical play or even theme parks, and this exact same money that was used, this fake money that was used to attract laborers to work on movies and theaters and theme parks, like that same money is just now being used to pay for tickets to go see a movie at the cinema or to buy a digital video game download or a digital music album, things that you can't hold in your hand anymore. That's a huge oversimplification, but I think that is why we use fake money. Anyway, I just remembered that theme parks exist, and I kind of just wonder about the whole idea of them. They notably have trains, like roller coasters and the more leisurely small trains, but those are trains. Roller coasters are trains, and they come in different types, speed, size, velocity, all that stuff. Tracks are different. You got things like carousels. There is some pretty good engineering that goes into this, I guess. Yeah, things that spin, and trains, yeah. And rigged games where all the odds are against you so that you can't win some horrible made-in-China crappy plushy thing. It's just kind of strange. And the carnival food, there's something about theme parks and fairs, and a lot of the time you'll also get, independent craftspeople that, they're selling art that they've made or they're selling pottery. And I'm just wondering about where the true idea for theme parks originated. Because, they're called theme parks, and I'm just kind of wondering about the inspiration behind the first one and how the idea took off. A lot of things that we think nothing of that are commonplace to the point where we just don't notice them. Like, around holidays, especially Halloween, very much so, but also Christmas, but usually Halloween. There are these really obnoxious animatronic dioramas where there'd be this little tiny figurine of a haunted house, and if you set it off, it starts lighting up and making noises and just being a startling nuisance. Oh, I hated those things so much, and who buys them? And, around Christmas there's that startling toy tree that has fake eyes and it dances and sings and forgets the word to the song. These dumb animatronic things, we would wonder, what is the point of them? Who would engineer, produce, and then buy them? Why are these a thing? That engineering could have been put to better use. These electronics and animatronics could be put to a better use. Apparently the explanation to the why animatronics is they are idols that move and make noise. Because the Bible and God keeps bashing on dead idols made out of wood or clay or metal that they just sit there and do nothing. And yeah, so the freaks, they are like, okay, well, we'll just be passive aggressive and make a moving idol that makes noises. That's what motion censored animatronics are all about. They detect input, light changes, and they just start bouncing around making hideous screechy noises. It's nothing but a middle finger. So that's just something to ponder about. So I let it sit in my head for a little bit. I'm gonna try and rephrase the fake money and media company connection. So this is pure speculation, history is a lie, blah blah blah. It just came to me, and I've been letting it sit in my head for a while. So I'm gonna presume that how this money stuff went down was, for the sake of simplicity, printed money was backed by metal or real actual economic value, and then technologies started being recovered for audio, video, print, and propaganda, and the stuff that the elites could use to dictate how the public feels And a lot of these large undertakings of like whole-scale media productions that requires a lot of labor and a lot of time. Movies have so many, just thousands of people just doing these little cog in the machine grunt jobs, and that's where the real cost is. It's not the few big name people. It's like all of these little guys. That's where the cost is. And as bullshit media became more and more a huge part of society, like it or not, because I'm sure you could find all of these connections on your own if you just gave it like 10 minutes of thought. So it just turned into some big cycle of funding media projects like audio, video, and radio stations and paying people to do these jobs. They were just being paid with fake money that was pulled out of nowhere. And that is why we have monetary inflation, because we don't manufacture anything anymore. We have like programmers, graphic designers, editors. These are good for like making media, but they don't benefit society. The stuff I do, I just do it in minutes. I mean, I can get long. It's easy to do. Just, there's no excuse as to why people aren't doing this. And I'm aware of the people that are like really self-righteous and preachy and they're acting like they're extremely knowledgeable, but if you people were legit, I would know where you would post, but you're not there. So I know you're not legit. Also, just the general haughty behavior and the huge ego and having like nothing to actually warrant it. Yeah, we're wise to your tricks. Anyway, that was a tangent for no reason because I felt like it. And anyway, here is some advice. You know, unsolicited general advice, because I feel like saying it. So the more you do something, the more proficient you get, the more skilled you get more and more streamlined and faster and efficient, where you can basically take shortcuts, but it will work out. Like, it's optional for people as they increase their skills they can take longer and do more fine detailing if they want to. But I think the biggest part of becoming more skilled at something is that you get faster and faster and faster. And the things that come out of you are, they're simpler and simpler. They could be more complex, but we don't have time for that. And there's not really justification for making things more complex. Simplicity is where it's at. So those are my thoughts for now. And I'll see you next time, or talk at you next time.